Welcome back to another edition of the Creator Spotlight. This week I have a award-winning fractional CMO, Harris Damashek, currently working with Harmony Beverage. Welcome, Harris. How are you doing today?
Hey, how are you, Lars? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, like I said, you have had an award-winning career over 25 years in marketing, leading all kinds of initiatives in multiple industries. So, what initially drew you to marketing, and how has your approach evolved over the years?
Yeah, for me, what's most exciting about marketing is just the blend of art and science, right? So obviously, at the end of the day, we're creating brands and vibes and approaches, but there's a fair amount of science behind it, right? The science of psychology, the science of behavior. To me, it's really exciting to kind of meld art and science in a way for business. So for me, it's the perfect way to have a creative outlet in my day-to-day job. And in terms of how it's evolved over the years, yeah, my career is pretty varied in terms of the industries and types of companies and roles and projects I've worked on. And for me, I've always just kind of led with passion and see where it takes me. So that's how I ended up in, I started as a brewer, ended up working for the world's biggest brewing company, and I've certainly always been a supporter, user of cannabis. And when there was an opportunity to have a front row seat for the birth of the industry, um, wild horses couldn't have kept me away from trying to bang my way in. Now, I might regret some of that on the day-to-day these days and in days past, but it's certainly been an exciting and interesting ride.
So you kind of mentioned it a little bit there. You have quite a bit of experience ranging from, global CPG brands such as AB InBev all the way down to smaller startups. So, how do you adapt your strategies from a marketing perspective, working with such diverse organizations and probably quite varying budgets?
Yeah. I've spent most of my career kind of strapped for cash when it comes to budgets. And so actually it's a real point of pride for me and my teams is really being able to take a very small budget and turn it into a major impact. The Acreage rejected Super Bowl ad would be another example of that, where we got, I think 4 billion media impressions in a few days. And so for me, it's not really about size of budget. I actually love being kind of put into a box of budget or, the cannabis industry over regulations. I call it marketing with one arm and leg tied behind your back. But you can come up with when you get trapped, you can find really amazing ways to escape, and they don't always require budget. And frankly, whenever I have had budget for global brands, I think thinking like a startup is really the only way to be in a lot of cases as well, because people don't feel very much for big brands, particularly when you're new, and so or well-funded CPG brands, and so I think even when I've worked with Anheuser-Busch InBev, the goal is to create a very tangible connection with the brand, and for me, like that, there's nothing more fun than trying to do that. So bigger budgets are easier, sometimes more fun, but usually, I prefer the scrappy approach, and maybe I've just been working in cannabis too long, where there haven't been budgets. But I think that's how you approach it, is really look at the brand, where in its stage of development is it? What does the brand need to achieve? Does it need to achieve awareness? Does it need to achieve sales? Does it need to achieve loyalty? And kind of working backwards to, engineer and craft something that's authentic and also connects with consumers. So to me, that doesn't matter whether you've got a big budget or small budget. It comes down to what are you trying to achieve? And frankly, there's a million ways to achieve those things. So that's the magic part of marketing, which is what do you do with that budget, with those objectives, and that's the really fun part that I still really get excited about.
You've now taken a role as a fractional CMO working in the cannabis industry. What inspired that transition, and how does that differ from previous full-time roles?
Yeah, this is now this is my third fractional CMO role I've taken on in the last few years, and I was originally I would say apprehensive about the ability to accomplish everything that needs to be done in a CMO role on a fractional basis. But, over time and having had a lot of experience, it became really clear to me that there's so many use cases that completely make sense where you want somebody with a high level background and understanding to set a strategy to, kind of evaluate programs and to kind of get a team recruited and set up. There's any number of different use cases, but really, uh, you there isn't the budget nor the need for that expertise to reside full time. So, I think it's the best of both worlds, both for a practitioner like me, I get exposure to lots of different companies and problems and get to work with lots of different people, which is, really exciting. But, for a company, I think it's a really cost-effective way to get some senior thought leadership and to set you up for success, when I think a CMO would be needed, a year down the line, 2 years down the line, once sales and revenue and the organizational growth, necessitates that.
You're currently working as a fractional CMO with Harmony Beverage. Tell us a little bit about Harmony and what you're doing there and what you're allowed to share.
Sure. I think there'll be more information to share soon, so everyone stay tuned. But I've been talking with Evan Edelman, who started Harmony for the better part of a year and a half, working up to working together, and we've recently kind of made it happen and a couple weeks ago, and really getting things underway. But what I'm really most excited about, and the promise that I saw in the early days of Acreage, I can still remember the first cannabis drink I had. And for me, that was when the light bulb went off. And, from at the end of the day, there's 10,000 years of human experience of people celebrating or commiserating over a drink. It's in our DNA at this point. It's also a form factor that gets rid of pretty much 90% of the stigma associated with cannabis, and kind of brings it right up to the acceptability of alcohol. You know, we all know that you can buy alcohol in a lot of places. Some of them are inappropriate in this country. The cannabis should be a offered alternative. And there's obviously no reason why it shouldn't be. But to me, beverage is the Trojan horse that's paving the way for the true embracing of cannabis. I really think beverage is where it's at. It has a really great opportunity right now to be quasi semi-national in distribution, and finally provides some element of scale, which is what the regulated market has lacked and been such a challenge for brands, both beverage and otherwise, to establish themselves. So this is very encouraging. We're still a patchwork like regulated cannabis, particularly as more states come on with their one-off regulations, but it's still the best opportunity, I think, to build that first true national brand in cannabis, which I think we've all been talking about for over a decade, but hasn't been able to materialize, right?
hmm So you mentioned your first can of beverage you were with Acreage. What was your first one?
New Frontier, which is a name, a blast from the past. And they had an NA beer that we checked on the airplane in a growler and brought back to New York from California because we needed people to try it. It was that my mind was so blown. And it came on in 3 minutes. It stacked like alcohol. And 30 minutes after I stopped drinking, I could have driven the car, and I was just, for me, that it's a better alcohol, right?
Yep.
And I think we all know alcohol's dangers, and we all still sometimes partake willingly. The New York Times story, finally putting a nail in the coffin of moderate drinking, being a real thing, which it's not. Obviously health and wellness has taken center stage, and people still want to be altered. They still want to be intoxicated. They still want to be social and commune with people. But I think everyone's trying to figure out how do they not ruin their day and their body in the interim.
Yeah, I believe my first can of beverage was can. I want to say it was 2021, either 2020 or 2021. I can't remember. I was not
Flavor.
the lemon lavender, lemon lavender. I wasn't living in a legal state at the time, so I happened to go up to Chicago. I think it was right after they launched in Chicago, in Illinois. So I was able to get them, and similarly to you, I saw a light bulb go off over my head because I was like, "This is the future here." And so since then, and once they were able to start shipping from the hemp derived space, I started ordering them regularly, and I think I stopped drinking almost a year ago. I want to say last September. Not even intentionally. I was just drinking the hemp derived beverages, and whenever I would have them, I would have a beer with it, or a non-alcoholic beer, and
Yeah.
it'd been like 3 months, and I was like, I don't even miss alcohol. So
Yeah. That's awesome.
yeah,
No, I mean, there's so many stories like that, right? And you look at sales results from the big strategics on the alcohol side. You look at a new generation that has different attitudes towards drinking, towards health and wellness. There's a lot of forces coming together right now that make this, I think the moment, that a lot of us have kind of been waiting for. And so, it's exciting for me to see at Harmony talking with, mainstream distributors who are not just willing, but excited to take on THC product, and treat it the same way, or frankly, with even more excitement than alcohol, right? Because it's new and it's growing, right? Which is the key for any distributor, any retailer, is growth, right? And this category has a long, long way to go and a big steep growth curve that's right the very beginning of, right? And so again, I wanted to have a front seat for kind of the birth of the legal cannabis industry. At the time, it was, we were doing primarily medical. I like to be there early and kind of watch things develop, and that's where a lot of opportunities also happen. And that's why I'm here on the beverage side now.
yeah. So you mentioned you like being early on things, so you have a wide range of experience in multiple industries here, particularly in cannabis and in alcohol. Are there any early or emerging trends that you're seeing that you're particularly excited about?
I think just on the beverage side, the willingness of consumers and just the speed of acceptance of the category. And we're actually getting ready to launch some products for our Love Your Brain brand, which is created with Wayne Coyne from the Flaming Lips, who's just an amazing dynamo of a creative human. And, we're at a live concert venue doing two shows with the Flaming Lips, and we are sampling and selling product on premises. So for me, like that is so damn exciting, right? To be able to do everything that we used to do, it's not everything and it's limited, but to be able to execute in those ways, in scalable ways that we can actually build brand, build consumer, fulfill them through e-commerce, it's so many of the things we couldn't do in the regulated market, to see them come to pass and be acceptable in the hemp-derived beverage space it's the dream that I think we've all been waiting for, which is to treat it like any other consumer packaged good, which it is. Um, and from there, I think, what we can do with it. I mean, it's really exciting, right? Whereas before, you might have an amazing product, you might even have an amazing, celebrity that you're working with, but you're so limited in what you can do and the numbers of points of distribution that it's just the size and the opportunity is just so artificially constrained. This is, I dare say, the biggest opportunity in cannabis since it started.
I couldn't agree more. So, lastly, I always like to end with this. How can my readers support you, Harmony, and connect with you further?
Drink weed, number one. Uh, you should try, and you can have it delivered by the friendly U.S. Postal Service to your door. And, there's a number of amazing brands out there in the space, Can, Wonder, Wink, Happy, all of Harmony's brands, including Love Your Brain. And everyone should just try it, right? And if you already tried it, buy more and have it in your house and give it to your friends and let them try it because that's the last frontier, right, is on premise, which you can do in Texas and Minnesota and increasingly more places, but that's still one of the places that we're increasingly or hamstrung in a way that we have been for a while. And so sampling is the most important way to get people over to the cause. So share a weed drink with a friend today would be the best way you can help us out.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Harris, and thank you to all my listeners, and see you next time.
Thanks for having me. Take care.